Hi, welcome back to my video. So, previously on this little weird mini-series I'm doing, is I have ranked season 1 and 2 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So, I think we're going to go through that today and do another season. This is the worst intro ever, but we'll go with it. So, this is previously what I've done. I've ranked seasons 1 and 2, and the tiers that I've got are best thing ever, great teller, don't threaten me with a good time, nah, but okay, skip, and then worse than Riley. And I know that might cause a little bit of debate, but he's not my favourite character, as you can tell. So, first episode in season 3 that we're going to be rating is Anne. So, a little bit of feedback on my previous episode that I did is basically to maybe just kind of summarise the episodes. In Anne, it's just after she has killed Angel in season 2. Sorry for spoilers, but if you're watching this, this is going to be a spoiler-heavy series, so... So, in season 3, the first episode is Anne. So, this is just after she's killed Angel in season 2, and she obviously got expelled from school, fell out with her mom, and has left Sunnydale for the episode. And then within this, you see her life in LA trying to escape the season before, basically. And she comes across a character called Lily, and she is in a previous episode, a little nice Easter egg dotted throughout. She was in the episode Lie to Me. She was called Chantel in there. She likes to change her name. And her boyfriend goes missing. Turns out he ends up in a hell dimension. Then Buffy does. Buffy and Lily end up in there. She saves Lily. They kill the demons, save the day. Buffy goes home. In a very, very, very quick summary. With that, I am going to play. I think it's a good solid episode. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy it. I wouldn't skip it. It's good. It deals with the season before, which is obviously a good thing for a season opener. You kind of want to clear up the loose ends from the series before. So I'm gonna, I think, pop it. I think there. Yeah, just. Is it better than The Harvest? I mean, they both have cool, very cool little like Buffy looking all serious kind of scenes. So I'll put it around there. This again could change as we go through season 3. I could end up wanting to put God knows what where and debating my entire life choices because I can't decide where a Buffy episode should go. So the next episode, Dead Man's Party. Okay, so Dead Man's Party, I personally believe is the quality of season 3 does get a lot better. So quality filming wise, that's all, yes, great improvements. Now her friends suck in this episode. This episode's dealing with Buffy coming back to Sunnydale and her not feeling like she fits in because she's not been there all summer and things have changed, the dynamics have changed a little bit and her friends are a bit miffed she left. Without saying a word. They care about her, they want to know where she is, they're a bit annoyed about that. Fair enough, feel the way you want to feel, but the last scene when they're all having a go at her, that like the party stuff, it's just uncalled for. It's not very considerate to how she was feeling. She went through something very, 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 very traumatic, and she dealt with it not in the greatest way. She ran away, but in the way she was trying to deal with it. She's 17, for God's sake. People make mistakes, but I don't think she deserved that much of them coming at her. It's an interesting one, and basically, I think I'll put it. I mean, it didn't scare me as much as Killed by Death, but really don't like how they are with her. So yeah, I think I might put that one down there in worse than Riley. So the next one, season 3, episode 3, Faith, Hope, Trick. This episode, I think, is another great episode. Okay, so we've had a good one, we've had a one. This one starts to make a lot of the series storylines like seeds are planted. So there's 3 kind of new-ish characters that are kind of introduced into the series. We have Trick, the vampire, like the new vampire to town. We have Scott Hope, which is like Buffy's new love interest, we don't really know much about. And then Faith, which is the next Slayer after Kendra. So she is a very interesting character. She becomes, obviously, we're going to talk about her arc because I'm talking about season 3. She's a very good flip of the coin to Buffy on like if different choices were made, and it's always good, I think, in a series that you kind of delve into character choice to have them flip different flips of the coin, the different scenarios that where your hero could have gone down, and it kind of reinforces why they're the hero because you have that contrasting element to them. Great introduction to it. I love the little sister themes of her like taking everything of Buffy's and Buffy not really liking that. I'm a little sister myself. My older sister would have what Buffy comes out with, I've heard it now and time and time again. So yeah, I think it's a good like sister dynamic, basically introducing into this series. It gives a bit of backstory, I think, to do with Faith, a little bit on it, like the introduction of her, that she's just obviously just as lost as Buffy with the whole Slayer thing of like she's very new to it. She's got a tiny bit of experience and stuff has happened to her, just the same as Buffy, but very different mindsets on it. Where would I put this one? Maybe just before then. Actually, I think I quite like Halloween. I might be about there, I think. So it's in between When She Was Bad and Halloween. The next episode, Beauty and the Beasts. This episode, Buffy and Scott Hope are getting a bit more like delving into the little dating scene of it all, very high school dating. It's quite actually sweet to see her try and have that normal dating life that she should strive for, with a nice guy. And so there's a couple that are his friends, and we learn a little bit about them. It turns out the guy of the couple dynamic is taking like a potion type thing that makes him go mental. It's a very big themes of abuse as well. I don't think it's necessarily like horrendously done either. I think it's a solid attempt at trying to show them themes a little bit. It's probably something they could have delved into a lot more than just kind of squeezed into one episode. Because it's definitely stuff that people would go through, and it's obviously to help get through their demons and stuff. It could have been a very useful way of highlighting behaviour that is bad that people might not necessarily have known when they're in it, because when you're in it you don't sometimes see that behaviour is bad. So it could, if they explored it more, it could have been a very, I think, enlightening storyline. As a one-off demon one, it is quite a good episode. It's not like the best, because I don't really like, you don't really end up caring too much about the couple friendship group. Like, you care about them, like they're there. They're there. It would have been cool if they were going to do a storyline like that. If it was like a character introduced into the friendship group that had that, and you learned slowly that there weren't something quite right, and then it came about. So definitely things they could have done more with that theme. But I like the episode. It isn't bad. It's, I think, probably around about there. It's just, actually I think it's better than the werewolf episode. No. Oh, is it? Oh, yeah, I'd say better than Nightmares. Yeah, I'd get it, put it there in between Out of Mind, Out of Sight, and then next to Nightmares. Homecoming. Do you know what? This Homecoming is an episode where Buffy wants to kind of claw back a normal life a little bit, and in her old school in LA, she was obviously like the prom queen and the Cordelia of it all. So her and Cordelia go head to head for Homecoming Queen, and I think it's just a good time. I think there's definitely the quality goes up in this season. I think there's going to be a lot more going in Don't Threaten Me with a good time. There's nice little dynamics, there's different scenarios, and it's a nice pairing to have Buffy and Cordelia again, because it's always, I think, a good contrasting pairing again. I think it's always about the like flip side to Buffy. So Faith is what Buffy could be if she made different choices with a Slayer, but then Cordelia represents what she used to be before she was a Slayer. So with that ramble on, I'm going to put it, I think there, which is pretty funny because it's Reptile Boy, another Buffy Cordelia episode, Out of Mind, Out of Sight, Buffy and Cordelia episode, and then Homecoming. Just trying to be fair, I think I'm going to put it the first of those trio. I think out of the three, Buffy, and obviously one each season, clearly quite a few, and they like to sprinkle in a bit of Buffy and Cordelia each season. I think that was probably one of the better ones of them three, but still all solid episodes. Oh, I've just seen what's coming up next. Bandcanda. I think this episode's great. It's throwing different pairings together that you don't see normally, like interact loads, and it just always gives you that cringy thing of when your parents start to act a bit young and you remember that there was a time before they were your parents. This episode, the school have to sell band candy. Turns out their friendly neighbourhood Ethan Rain has cursed or done something to the candy to make all the adults turn to teenagers again, which leaves Joyce and Giles teenagers, and Buffy has to be the responsible parent figure kind of save the day as well. I honestly think it's one of those, it has that fun like storyline and monster of the week to it, but it's about the characters. So the difference between like season 2 monster of the week, it was just very monster of the week driven, whereas season 3 we've got Homecoming was about, it's like a monster of the week episode, but it's about Buffy and the gang going to a homecoming. This one is obviously they're selling candy, but it's more about what happens to the characters than the actual monster of the week. I think the monster of the week is, I think the mayor's being introduced and he has to give like a tribute to a monster in a sewer, and it has to be babies, and the only way they'd get away with that is if all the adults were distracted. I'm quite impressed I think it is that, but that's not the thing you really think about when you think of this episode. The bit you think about is Joyce and Giles flirting, and Giles going a bit his rebellion side, which they've hinted to in other episodes. I think it might go Great Teller. See, all these are quite like story arc driven, so this is kind of like the first monster of the week episode that I'm actually going to put at the bottom, but in Great Teller, just because it's a fun one to always watch. And a little trivia Easter egg, in the Buffy comics, the Boom comics, I think, not the Dark Horse, they do, because they're like modern day comics, but they're doing like a multiverse-esque theme, and I remember one of them is they went into a different universe, and it's an image of Giles and Joyce dressed in them outfits. So obviously for the Buffy fans out there, when you're reading that, if you've seen the series, you know what episode that is, and you're like, oh, that's the point you're coming into into the 97 series there. Yeah, I by the way do enjoy them comics, and I was a bit skeptical at first about them, but they were a good time. Would recommend them. I'm about to say wouldn't, but I meant would. Ramble, especially about Buffy. I don't know if you didn't know that. you will by the end of season 7. Revelations. So this is starting to dip into the storyline a little bit more, setting up the contrasting themes between Faith and Buffy and Faith, all this stuff. Faith has been taken care of by Giles for the first few episodes, and this is where another watcher comes and said that she is Faith's watcher. Turns out, because Faith is quite also like really trusting of like anyone on the flip side, to say she's quite like tough and a persona up, she is also wanting a Giles figure, basically. She's looking for what Buffy and Giles have, and I think she wants that parent figure, because obviously she doesn't even have a mother around, so she doesn't have what Buffy has. She's a bit of an orphan in that sense. So she trusts this watcher. I can't remember her name, and that's gonna bug me. I think, and it's all about this claw thing they have to get, or like this weapon. I think, again, it kind of feels like a Monster of the Week episode, but it is kind of like sprinkling story in there. It's pushing the characters forward. But anyway, it turns out the Watcher is evil, and she was fired from the Watchers Council, and Faith trusts her, and she's like, you're an idiot for trusting me, blah, blah, blah. But at one point, this is like the first glimpse that you see like Buffy and Faith against each other, like when they're fighting against each other. And I'm not gonna lie, the fight scenes in this series, like this season, are great, because I think because the choreography of their fights are very similar, because they're kind of linking the Slayer, and it's a very clear definition to it. Yes. So I think I'm going to put it in the top of meh, but okay. And it's not because I'm saying I don't like it. I actually do like it. I just think there's a lot better episodes. Anyway, next episode, Lover's Walk. This has Spike come back into the series. So obviously he was in season 2, and then he went like off into the distance with Drusilla. Turns out though, Drusilla weren't too happy with how he went about trying to get her back. So she dumped him. He got dumped. And he is a bit of a hopeless romantic at heart. So he comes back and he's trying to figure out how to get the love of his life back. Or who he thought was the love of his life. And along the way, so he steals Willow to do a spell for him, but then he needs to go get the stuff. He bumps into Angel, and Buffy blackmails them and says, I'll give you Willow and Xander back if you help me get this stuff, basically. So it's a fun, amusing episode, and then they end up having like a big fight against more vampires, I think, and then by the end of it, Spike has a realisation that, do you know what, if he wants Drusilla back, he just needs to be the man that she fell in love with. So he was like, I'm going to go kidnap her, torture her until she loves me again. And it's one of those episodes, again, it doesn't feed into the overall story of the big bad, because I think it feeds into the Buffy and Angel story bubbly in the series, but it's again more character driven. They're using the one-off episodes to feed in overall, and they're a lot more effective in the long run because of that. And it's a Spike episode, so it's going to have to go. Not best thing ever, but it is Great Teller, and mainly just when he turns around and goes like, do you know what? I'm just gonna go do this. Sod it. She's in the factory. That the delivery of that last scene, the last 30 minutes they've been going for all this, and then he's like, just go get him. Like, I'm done. I'll go do my thing. It's great. Another episode that's, do you know what? It could have been a one-off Monster of the Week, and how many times am I gonna say Monster of the Week in this video? It's actually quite an important one because it introduced a very important character that's going to be staying put for the rest of the series. And in this, so at the end of Lover's Walk, obviously it's actually a bit of a big, spoiler, big thing to throw in there is Xander and Willow are about to kiss at the end of it, just as Oz and Cordelia come in to save them. So obviously, as you can imagine, they fucked up. They buggered up. This weren't like the right thing, and Cordelia dumps him. And I think obviously Willow and Oz at the minute are on the outs, which I'm sorry, but why would she do that to Oz? Oz has been nothing but the best boyfriend to her, and I'm gutted that she'd even do that, because Xander, he spent most of the time drooling over Buffy when he's got Cordelia, and then he ends up kissing Willow when he's still with Cordelia. He doesn't really, like, Cordelia can be a pain in the arse, but she is also, like, once she's there for him, she's there for him. But I just, yeah. Anyway, so this episode, a vengeance demon is introduced, and she is trying to help Cordelia. This vengeance demon goes after women that have been wronged by men. And Cordelia wishes Buffy had never come to Sunnydale. This is such a good little, again, one-off episode, but kind of gives you that more building of the universe and, like, that question of, like, do you really make a difference kind of mentality that people might think in their head. And then we get to see this world of what would have happened if Buffy didn't come into Sunnydale. So we've got Xander and Willow are vampires. Oz and like a crew of like outcasts in Sunnydale High are trying to kill them like the vampires. The Master is alive. Angel is being tortured by Willow, who's giving off very much Drusilla vibes. I feel like she kind of played it a little bit like Drusilla. A Buffy that didn't come to Sunnydale and have the events affect her comes into it basically, and she's talking to Giles and she's like, oh, I'll go kill him, all this stuff, and she's kind of giving off very Kendra vibes, not quite the Buffy that we know. So as she goes off, you've got all of them fighting, she's like killing Xander, obviously like not even knowing who he is, and then the Master ends up killing Buffy. At the same point, Giles breaks the spell, and there's a nice little moment when Anya the Vengeance Demon asks Giles, how do you know that this world will be better than this one, basically? What are you putting your faith in? And then he says, because it has to be. And it's always like that little sentiment about like striving for a better world, or like believing in something better. I like the episode, as you can tell. Again, I think this is gonna go in great telly. I think there's a good character, obviously, like Anya's introduced. The next episode is Amends, and it's another one. This is kind of dealing with a backlash of like season 2. It's more about where does Angel go, like meaning for him and like his character. Being haunted by previous people he has killed. He's not like, there's a lot going on. It's all about that with Angel, and it's like set during Christmas, so it's kind of like It's a Wonderful Life. We find out it's a thing called the First that has been like torturing Angel and then trying to get Angel, I think, to basically turn and kill Buffy. But he's about to try and kill himself when the sun is coming up, and then there's a big scene where Buffy's like, if you die now, then all you ever was a monster. And it's really the starting point, and like I feel like the seed for him that leads him into the series of Angel. He's making amends constantly, so the entire mantra and the entire thing he's trying to accomplish in the series of Angel is making amends for what he's done, so that his life is more than just him being a monster and actually the good that he did after that. But then, so they've gone through all this and they're having this big confrontation about everything that happened the season before, and the sun doesn't come up. It starts snowing, so it kind of like the universe kind of gives him a win, and it's like, well, do you know what? Well, you should stay around. It's a good episode. It's a very, very Buffy Angel drawn episode, and I do enjoy it. I think I love how I've gone into so much of the deeper meaning of it, and I'm still putting it meh, but okay. But it is an okay episode. I enjoy it. I'd happily rewatch it. I wouldn't skip it. I think these episodes above kind of just summarise more of the show of Buffy, the humour, the drama, the whimsical monsters, and the horror elements of it. So yeah. Next episode is Gingerbread. I'm not gonna lie, a slightly stranger midway point of the series and a one-off monster of the week. Again, this has all been like little one-off episode character driven ones, and this is more kind of dealing with like Joyce and her dealing with the mystical world. And this one has 2 children that die in a park, and then the adults go like uproar, and Joyce basically outs like magic kind of to an extent and wants to like get rid of it all, to the point where she has Willow and Amy and Buffy tied to a stake basically, and is going to set them afire. Set them alight. It's a little bit odd of an episode. It's not my favourite. It's not terrible. I'm just trying to think, would I skip it? It might be a skip, you know, like, because yeah, it's an alright episode, but Joyce just gets really, like, the parents just get really irritating, and I know that's kind of the point, is dealing with Joyce learning about this kind of world and stuff, and obviously she is enchanted a little bit by the little mystical Jack and Jill little kids, and it's like a fairy tale. Sorry, I'm not told about the synopsis of this episode very well at all, but I haven't watched it very much because I tend to skip it. So that's my basic overview of this show, like this episode. The next one is Helpless. This episode, I'll try to summarise it first before I go straight in with my opinion. Buffy is turning 18, and when she turns 18, basically the Watchers Council do a trial on a Slayer to see if they would survive. Now, this is a very bizarre thing to do. It's kind of their way of keeping the power over the Slayer. So Giles is injecting Buffy with something that gets limits her powers, makes her a normal girl, and the entire point of this trial is that they end up locking her in a house with a absolutely insane vampire, and she has to get herself out. She has to save the day. But it kind of goes wrong because Giles tells her about the trial, because obviously he looked like he couldn't go through with it, especially with how like it were messing with her head, not being able to do like be herself basically. And it's an episode that's really good because it shows that Buffy isn't just her strength, like the bravery, the traits that she has isn't because she's a Slayer, it's because of who she is. The power is just an extra part of that, obviously. So that's great. The Watchers Council guy, that dude, he says to Giles that he is fired because he has a father's love for the child. And Buffy did pass, and Buffy's like, get out, basically, which I'm not surprised because, you know. And then obviously I think is it the beginning of the next episode or the end of this one where Willow's like, Giles got fired? But Giles got fired, kind of. Yeah, so this episode, I think I'm going to put there. I think it's a really strong episode. Again, character driven, there's so many great aspects of it, and I really love the moments between Buffy and Giles. They're such a good relationship throughout. I love it. Next episode, the Zeppo. Now, it's an episode basically kind of from Xander's perspective. The end of the world's happening. We don't see too much to do with that. We see it all from Xander's perspective, and they're keeping him on the outskirts because obviously, like, Willow's got like the witch stuff side of her now, and Oz has a bit of the werewolf like going for him. Like, they all have like a supernatural connection other than Xander, so it's kind of about that. But then Xander gets like in his own little trials where he ends up with a gang of like bullies basically, but they're zombies. Like, technically they're dead, and they want to blow up the school. So it puts Xander in the school trying to stop a bomb while Buffy and everyone is trying to stop the end of the world. It is quite amusing. There's some good aspects to it. I don't mind it. I think I did used to skip it, I'm not gonna lie. Like, so yeah, I probably would skip it. I don't skip him as much now, to be fair. It's probably a lot when I was younger, so I tend to watch these because I try and take in the good, the bad, and everything. But yeah, so I'm going to put it at the top of skip. So the next episode we're on to is Bad Girls. This one delves into, this is more of a story overall arc episode. And it's about Buffy and Faith are patrolling a lot, they're about, like, with each other a lot, all that kind of aspect, and Buffy starts kind of taking on board some of the carefree aspects ends up, by the end of the episode, Faith basically acts first and thinks later, and it kind of comes to a head where she ends up staking a human. It's all kind of about that, like, this is like a proper crossroads for the series. It's like setting it on its course now and setting these two Slayers on the course, basically. So it's a great episode. I'm gonna put it there, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna put it there. The next episode after that is called Consequences. Now, this, as you can imagine, is about the consequences of that episode previously. So Buffy feels horrendously guilty for what had happened, even though she didn't obviously kill the guy. She's like, could she have done anything different to stop that from happening? All these things are coming ahead, and she's obviously just a kid. She doesn't know how to deal with this kind of these kind of things. So she tries to confront Faith. That doesn't work. She then is going to go to Giles. Faith gets to him first and says that it was Buffy that killed the guy, and tries to like double cross her. So then as Faith leaves, Giles, I'm really like, again, another little Giles and Buffy moment, which I love. He was like, yeah, Faith, we have a rogue Slayer on our hands. Faith is extremely dangerous. So he knew Buffy wouldn't do it, basically. He knew they weren't a Buffy thing, and I appreciate that he had that faith in it, and he knew, he could tell when Faith was lying, if you know what I mean, like it weren't all genuine. So it's a good episode. They try to kind of set her on her course and stuff, but I'm not gonna lie, Wesley gets introduced at some point. I can't actually remember what episode he comes into it. So Wesley is the new watcher of, I think it was in Bad Girls, potentially. It's after Helpless, I think. They tried to keep it from Wesley a little bit, but he, I think, finds out anyway, and then kind of goes about, I think, sending her off to the Watchers Council. Or am I getting this confused? Anyway, it sets her on a course where she basically doesn't trust these guys anymore, I think. Or I might be getting this confused with... Oh, no, is that... I'm getting my Faith lore completely confused, and I'm going to have to take my Buffy title away from me of being a Buffy nerd. What actually happens in that episode is... Yeah, no, I don't know if he ruins her chances, because basically she's still in the group a little bit. So ignore what I just said. I'm pretty sure I've just got confused with something a little bit later. I think. What did I? I'm going to have to Google it. Sorry, guys. Yeah, okay. I am back. I have double checked. Angel is trying to get through to Faith. They have a whole thing, because obviously he's just like that urge to kill. Like he's been there, but he's obviously trying to make amends. And Wesley comes in and kind of railroads the entire operation and kind of disrupts that to an extent. I think that's the best description. I can't believe I've proper blanked on this episode. Anyway, I'm gonna put it there, I think. I prefer Helpless, but it is a good episode, and I promise I do remember the episode. Next one. Doppelgangland. So this one is kind of referencing the episode The Wish, where we had Vampire Willow. She ends up on a series of unfortunate events being in their universe, basically. So Willow has, she is tutoring a guy, he's not listening to her, he wants her to do all her homework for her, so she's having that, like, she's a bit mousy, people don't listen to her, and one of the circumstances throughout the episode is this guy actually bumps into Vamp Willow, and let's just say by the end of the episode, he's doing as Willow says, he's listening to his tutor, so he got a life lesson, granted from basically a murderer, but you know, he wasn't to know. And there is a scene where human Willow has to pretend to be Vampire Willow, which gives her, I think, a tiny bit more confidence. She's definitely growing in confidence in season 3. It's really, like, nice to see the confidence coming through. And there was a nice little, like, scene at the end where she's talking about Vamp Willow, and she's like, I think she's a little gay. And then Buffy's like, well, Vamp Willow has nothing to do with you. It's not how you are. There's no connection, really. And then Angel's like, I'll just be quiet. So, and obviously, with what's to come, yeah. So, it's a good random episode. I enjoy it. I like how it calls back to the episode The Wish. It makes that feel less like a one-off. I'm going to put it there. Yeah, I'll put it there. So, the next episode, Emenies. Now, this is what I'm going to get confused with. So, this episode, the gang suspects, basically, I think that Faith is helping the mayor. Granted, did not say this earlier on, but she ends up being in with the mayor and being like secret. I'm going to help you guys. I'm going to help the bad guy out, but they don't know at this point. So this basically is the mayor hires somebody to remove Angel's soul, and then obviously there's a bit where like Faith and Angel are going around being Faith and Angel, and Buffy has to see it. Not very fun for her. They lock Buffy, like tie Buffy up, and as they're about to like torture her, they get information from Faith. This episode, I'm not gonna lie, the double cross, because they set it up like you believe Angel has lost his soul, and the moment like when Buffy says, "Do you think that's everything?" and then Angel says, "I think she's told us everything she knows." When Faith like spins round, genuinely, a little bit of chills. It's such a good moment where the audience is like, "Oh no, they didn't. No, they did." So I actually think just on that scene alone, it's so good, and I just love at the end where like you find out the demon that removed his soul owed Giles a favour, and he's like, they're like, "Oh, what did you do for him?" He's like, "Oh, I introduced him to his wife." Just, it's a nice, it's a whimsical way to end that little bit and tie it up, and then just have the double cross basically is that spin, and you get the moments there. I'm gonna put that in Great Teller. I'm not gonna lie, it's good. It's really good. It is good. I'll put it there. The next episode, Earshot. This is where Buffy's fighting a demon, and then she gets a bit of its blood on her hand, and she gets an aspect of the demon, and it's that she can hear everyone's thoughts. She ends up going a bit crazy because she can hear everything. At the same time, she does also hear somebody threaten that they're going to kill everyone by like noon tomorrow. So a little trivia thing to do with this is when it was going to air, they had to delay it because of a school shooting in America. It turns out she spots Jonathan in the like clock tower, and she thinks he's out to kill everyone. She goes up and she's talking to him, and she's talking about how everyone has pain, and you don't hear it, but everyone down there is suffering. It's not solely, it's basically trying to give you that sentiment of like it's not just you, so talk out basically. They still have then to find out who is going to kill them all by like midday that day or something. So they end up finding out it was the school dinner lady, and she was putting rat poison into their food. And obviously by the end of it, Buffy's also cured of the demonness. So it's a good episode to show there's a lot more going on under the surface for people. I think it's a nice little metaphor for that. Oh, I say metaphor, it's quite literal, it's not a metaphor. It's showing quite literally everyone's got stuff going on behind closed doors, so it don't really always judge a book by its cover, really. Just have a bit more empathy for people around you. And I am gonna put it, I think, there. Next episode, choices. Basically, I think a lot of them are getting their like college letters. It's all about like what they're gonna do next year. Things are closing up in high school. Willow ended up being kidnapped, and as she's kidnapped, she finds the books of Ascension, and she starts reading these books, and rips a few pages out, and Buffy and the gang are trying to stop the mayor having to do this like ritual before the Ascension, because they kidnapped Willow before that. Then they have to trade off, give the thing that they got to get Willow back. So that like by the end of it, Wesley's like, "Oh, we're just kind of right back where we started." Whereas Willow then pulls out these pages, and obviously they're not. They've got more information at least. Like Buffy's like, "You could go anywhere you wanted," and she's like, "Do you know what? No, I know I can go anywhere I want, and I want to be here. I want to help. I want to fight the good fight alongside Buffy." And it's a nice little like one of Buffy's friends choosing. It's always about choice in this series, and your actions and your choices make like your meaning. And Willow chooses to stay. She chooses to fight the good fight. I'm gonna put it in Don't Threaten Me With a Good Time. It is a good little episode. Whatever they're trying to stop is kind of like here or there. I like the little more character development you get from Willow. Once again, it's quite a big series for Willow. Slowly she's getting more and more into her own. Next episode is the prom. She's all excited for the prom, and then she's talking to Angel about the prom because she's all excited about it and going with him. And then Joyce, as a parent, decides, you know what, maybe a 200 and something year old vampire is not the greatest choice for my daughter, who also, to be fair, I don't even know she did know that, I think. And obviously who went evil the year before and all this stuff. So she goes to Angel and basically says, if you really want the best for her, you need to really think about what life she's going to have if she stays with you, because she is a young girl in love. She won't leave. She will stay, but you need to think about what that means for her in the long run. So he ends up breaking up with her because he obviously believes, and it makes sense, and it is the mature thing, that she won't ever have a normal life because of him if they stay together. And she's like, well, she won't have a normal life anyway. And he's like, well, that's more reason to try and get one. So it's quite a harsh breakup. It's not like, it's a harsh breakup scene, because breakup scenes are never going to be fun. And you really feel that emotion for her, that she becomes suddenly an 18-year-old girl with her first boyfriend, who she has loved no matter what, break up with her. And so she's not going to have that prom that she dreamed of. So she's adamant that her friends will. So she stops Monster of the Week, which is hell dogs attacking the prom set by a student. And she shows up at the wedding. She shows up in her prom dress, and it's on her own. But at the stage, Jonathan starts giving out all the traditional little awards that you get at prom, you know, like best dress, blah, blah. And he gives Buffy an award for class protector, and it's a nice little nod that the students aren't dumb. They know what's been happening. They know, they understand Buffy is helping them, if you know what I mean, and saving the day. So, and then she obviously collects this award, turns around, and then later on, like I think a few moments later in the episode, she turns around when all her friends are dancing, and Angel shows up, and he comes over, they don't say a word, and they just have a dance, and it ends on that. So she gets the prom moment, knowing obviously it's going to come to an end. Like, he still shows up for that because she deserves to have a nice prom. So it's a really good episode. I like it. I like the scene at the end, that closure, and the touches, the little references that all the students shout up, like all the different like hyenas and Snyder kind of little moment, little heckles they get. I think I'm gonna put it there. Yeah. So we are into the finale. So part 1, graduation, all about the storyline to do with the mayor and this ascension that's been bubbling, and then like Faith helping him. So Faith shoots Angel, and the only way, with like a poison arrow, and it basically means the only way that he can be saved is by the blood of a Slayer. Once Buffy finds this out, she goes to Faith's apartment, and they have excuse my language, they have a showdown. This is one of the greatest fights. I love watching it just because it's one of those that like, either could win. They're so equally paired in skill, but are so different. And it's a really good, and also it's like, well, oh my god, is Buffy like, because she's like, oh, you won't get me there alive, and Buffy's like, oh, I'm not going to take you alive, like, you just need the blood, I don't need you alive. She says it a lot more eloquently than I do. So it's like that shocking moment of like, Buffy's like, do you know what? You're a pain in the ass, and Angel is trying to be a good person at least, so we're gonna help him out, basically. So they're fighting, blah, 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 going for it, and she stabs Faith, but Faith takes the opportunity, because they've ended up outside, to then basically fall back into the street onto like a lorry thing, and then she's gone, basically, so Buffy don't know where Faith's gone, and it's like, well, how do I save Angel now? So that's the summary of this episode. And I think might put it there. I really like the Faith scene. It's really good. I know that's really like, oh yeah, on the one fight scene you're gonna put it there, but it's also like the whole like everyone getting all like, angsty over graduation, the end of the world. You know, like it's kind of we're graduating. It's the end of the world. So I think yeah, I'm gonna put it there unless I change my mind in a moment. The last episode of season 3 is Graduation Day Part 2. Surprise. Not the episode, just, yeah, shock. They named it Part 2. So this obviously opens with Angel to have her blood, basically, with the hopes that he can stop before he kills her. Angel has taken Buffy to the hospital. She is, like, obviously the doctors are taking care of her. The guys come and they're like, what the hell did you do? Blah, blah. Buffy eventually wakes up. She has there is a dream sequence, by the way, sorry. There is a dream sequence to do with Faith and Buffy, and a bit of back and forth between them. Buffy wakes up, knows Faith is in a coma, so it goes to see her in her room, and she comes out to the gang and she's like, look, I know what we need to do. We need to, like, I think she says go to war? Something like that, like. So this episode's all about the Ascension, basically, and it's like, right, we're going to graduate. The Ascension's there. We find out that the mayor is the special talk person, commencement speaker at the graduation. So, convenient, they don't have to break away from the graduation. They can go to graduation and save the day, We like a convenient plot line. So, Buffy's, like, going through the plan. We're not really privy to that. Like, so they're like, oh, do you think this will work? And she's like, you're mental, but we're going to go with it. We're going to trust her. She's not let us down before. So she is going through all that. They're going through, and you can see them, like, talking to all the different, like, students we've seen previously, which is nice little nods to the school and kind of making it feel more of a community and a true graduation, because there's characters that we've seen little snippets of, and they're all gearing up for basically going to war. They know it's going to be a big showdown. They know the mayor's going to become a big snake, blah, blah, blah. So as that happens, it gets to graduation, the mayor's doing his speech, he turns into a big snake, and then basically Buffy's like staring at him, and we're like, right, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then Buffy goes, right, now. And they all take off their robes, and all the students have got weapons. So then they're fighting the vampires, the different demons, and, like, Xander's like a little military little leader, like organising people. Cordelia stakes her first vampire, which is great. And then Buffy is, like, breaking the snake away from the rest of the group. He shows him, the mayor of the snake, Faith's dagger that he'd gifted her to kind of, like, play on his emotions and pull him away. They go running through the school as he's, like, destroying it because it's a giant snake. And then she runs into the library, the beloved library, and there is a lot of explosives, basically. And she obviously gets out of the library, gets to Giles, and then Giles presses the big button and they go for it, and they blow up the school and, in turn, the snake. Which is, it's like a nice little roundup of the school thing and the graduation. It's definitely a good moment when you see all the students helping as well, and a nice little snippet is as well, like, obviously with Cordelia staking a vampire, and a little snippet of a scene where Harmony, Cordelia's old friend, gets bitten by a vampire, and find out in a later season that she becomes a vampire, which is a nice little random character and a good way to keep her in the universe. So I don't think it's as good as part 1. I do think it's great teller. I'm gonna put it there, I think, which is bizarre because I think I've gone for, like, Becoming part 2 is really high up there at the minute. This is, like, one of the best episodes for me currently. It's very interesting to see how as I line the episodes up, where they actually play in relation to each other in enjoyment. So in the ranking order currently, we have Becoming part 2, School Hard, Innocence, Graduation part 1. In Great Telly, we have Lover's Walk, The Wish, Becoming part 1, Helpless, Graduation Day part 2, Consequences, Passion, Enemies, Surprise, Prophecy Girl, The Harvest, Anne, Welcome to the Hellmouth, Angel, Lie to Me, Band Candy, and The Prom. In Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time, in Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time, we have Bad Girls, Earshot, What's My Line Part 2, What's My Line Part 1, Halloween, Faith, Hope and Trick, When She Was Bad, The Witch, Some Assembly Required, Homecoming, Reptile Boy, Out of Mind, Out of Sight, I always struggle with that one, Beauty and the Beast, Nightmares, Doppelgangland, it's a bit small, the font, Phases, Choices, in meh, but okay. We have Amends, Revelations, I Only Have Eyes for You, Bewitched, Bothered and Bewildered, Ted, Bad Eggs, The Pack, The Puppet Show, and The Mummy. In Skip, we have The Zeppo, Gingerbread, I, Robot, You, Jane, Never Kill a Guy on the First Date, Teacher's Pet, The Dark Age, and Go Fish. In the Worse Than Riley, we have Dead Man's Party and Killed by Death. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe potentially, because there will be more seasons coming out. I might do Angel at some point and talk a bit more into the show and other shows that I enjoy in general. This might be a bit of a random channel, but hopefully some content that you find enjoyment out of down the line. I will definitely be doing season 4 hopefully soon as well and get that one up. So yeah, if you like and subscribe and put a little comment in down below if you agreed or disagreed or want to tell me where I went wrong with my choices. So thanks, bye!